All right, here we go. Next one, 2.1.7. And now let's do this truss here. So first thing we're going to do, as always, what's the number one step we got to do for calculating the truss forces? Starts with an M and ends with an moment. Yeah, you got to do your moments first. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is look at our moment forces. So we're going to do the sum of the moments has to equal 0. Which, oh my God, I'm getting tangled up. Which one of these, where do we want the pivot point to be? At the pin. You always want to pick the pin to do your pivot point. So B will be our pivot point. So everything else, we're going to look at the forces coming off of here. So far, what pivot point, so what forces are we going to have for the sum of the moments? We have what? What's causing, what's going to cause a rotation? The 50 pounds is going to cause a rotation. Is that going to be positive or negative? If you use your thumb, right hand rule, using your thumb, it's going to go clockwise. Or if you have it on paper, rotating your thumb would give you thumb down, or rotating your hand would give you thumb down, so that's negative. Thumbs down is negative, so you have a negative, and then it's going to be 50 times the perpendicular distance, which is going to be 3. Okay? And what's the other reactionary, or what's the force? It's a reactionary one. What's the other thing causing a moment here? What force? What reactionary force? If the pin is here at B, A is going to be our reactionary force. Okay? So we have the reactionary force, and it's going to be, it's fighting the other way. Right-hand rule will give you thumbs up. That means it's positive. So you have reactionary force A at Y. Our distance is also going to be 3, because if it's going in this direction here, 3 is going to be the distance that's perpendicular to it. And that's equal to 0. Okay? So we got negative 150 plus 3 times RAY equals 0. Add 150 to both sides. 3 RAY is equal to 150. Divide both sides by 3. RAY is equal to 50. All right? So there we go. We figured out RAY. Yes, sir. The distance that you multiply by, the question, distance you multiply by be the opposite distance. It just has to be perpendicular. Okay? So RAY is going in this direction. Okay? The distance is going to be, has to be perpendicular to it. So it's this 3 here that's perpendicular to it. It's confusing because they're both 3's. Okay? But if this was 2, that would be the one you do multiply by 2. All right? Okay, now let's finish this part and just do the forces to finish up the sum of the forces. So in the sum of the forces, have to add up to 0. So we'll do Y first. We have 50 going down. And what's the only other force there that's going to help fight against that? There's no Y force for A, right? The only other Y force we have, the 2 forces here, we have RBX and we have RBY. So the only other force, so when we list our forces, we'd say, all right, well, sum of the forces of the Y is going to be equal to 50 going down, so we'll make that negative. And RBX going back up. I'm sorry, RBY going back up. and that's equal to 0. So solving for it, that means that RBY has to be equal to a positive 50. Okay, and we have one last force. We got to do X, sum of the forces in the X direction. So we do a sum of the forces. What's going on in the X direction? We have a reactionary force, RAY, and we have the 50. I'm sorry, the RAY is X. Oh man, I totally messed it up and said RAY. I'm sorry. I just realized that. There goes all my subscribers. X, X, X. What a dummy. Okay? Anyways, going back to it, so this is RAX. Thanks everyone for speaking up and catching my mistake for me. Yeah. So we have RAX going to the right. So what else do we have? There's nothing. Okay, RBX is the only other force we have. RBX. And those add up to 0, right? So if RAX was 50, and there's RBX there, that means RBX has to be equal to a negative 50. Which means if it's pushing, if this is pushing out, this actually is pulling in, okay, to keep it from going away. All right? Now, if you look at the forces, RAX is going in to that joint, which is compression. That means RBX is going away from that joint. So what's that called? Starts with a T and ends with tension. Oh, very good. You guys are smart. There you go.